Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to the 20 by 20 Wellbeing Challenge Season 2. This is your host, Shazia. And today, because we have a very different session with a group of brilliant minds, it's just gonna be me. And as always, the audience will give me great company, inshallah. As always, our topics epitomize the beautiful quote by Imam Ali, which is, "You presume you are a small entity, but within you is enfolded the entire universe." Now, today, before we get into our speaker profiles, I'd like to share a very beautiful excerpt that I always look back to. And this is an excerpt that I even used during my graduation speech. And this excerpt is from the movie Coach Carter. It's a very beautiful one. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So this was a very beautiful excerpt that I thought it would be apt for today's session. And without further ado, I think we can go on to introducing our speakers for day 15 of the 20 by 20 Wellbeing Challenge Season 2. Today we have the Baraza Banter group. And the topic for today is perception of mental health, culture versus religion. I'm going to introduce each of them. We have Sister Zara Rashid. Sister Zara is studying journalism and Middle Eastern studies at American University of Sharjah. She's a co-host and editor of the Baraza Banter podcast. She loves writing, photography, and graphic design. She has a passion for culture, history, religion, and politics, as well as the way they all intertwine to lead us to where we are today. Our second speaker is Sister Faliha Rashid. Sister Faliha Rashid is currently a middle school teacher at Waliul Asr Learning Institute in Canada. She is passionate about raising the next generation of children that will light the path forward through their love for Allah and the Ahlul Bayt. Alongside this, she is also a host of the Baraza Banter podcast and also loves sharing ideas and creating a safe space for the youth to thrive. Her educational background includes being a graduate of psychology with a minor in English literature and HR from the University of Waterloo. Our third speaker for today is Sister Zoha Hemraj. Sister Zoha Hemraj is an optometrist, a Quran tutor, and a host on the Baraza Banter podcast. She has a keen interest in philosophy and studies various subjects alongside her degree, such as Arabic grammar, Islamic philosophy, psychological first aid, and global healthcare from the Harvard University. As a language enthusiast, Sister Zoha has mastered over 6 languages and aspires to leave a footprint of spirituality to her best capacity. May that be through organizing workshops for the youth, public speaking, or via social media. Can we please welcome our Baraza Banter group, the 3 lovely girls. Assalamu alaikum, girls. How are you?
Alaikum salam. Good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. So first, please, each of you tell me which side of the world are you on today?
So me and Zahra were both in Dubai. I actually just landed from Canada yesterday.
And I've been here for a while.
Okay, amazing.
I am
Alaikum
still
salam.
here right now. I'm in Cardiff.
Oh, you're in Cardiff. Amazing. So we have Dubai and UK together right now. So first, before we get into a very deep topic today, tell me, how did you get the name Baraza Banter? I think everyone wants to know that.
Yes. So actually, we noticed that whenever we meet up, us three, we're always talking about topics that are pertaining to the youth and just interesting. Like we like to share ideas and come up with different things. So we decided, why not? We have our own platform where we can share those ideas with everyone else.
Amazing, amazing. And why Baraza Banter though?
So we thought we'd add a little bit of our culture into our name too, and we like to banter. So
Yeah. For us, that's what we do, right? So
yeah,
Amazing.
cup of chai and then
Okay.
banter.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I think we can go ahead with. I think I want to ask Sister Faliha to start out as to what the topic is and why have you guys chosen to speak on this? Why is it important for us to know?
Right. So firstly, I just wanted to thank you for having us on here and giving us this platform to speak about such an important topic. We're truly honored to be here. So in terms of our topic, we are talking about the blur between culture and religion and how this can perpetuate a stigma surrounding mental health. So, what do we mean by this? Some of our religious practices sometimes don't really align with our cultural traditions. And when the two get conflated, it can be very dangerous. When we don't have a clear distinction between the real essence of religion and culture, it becomes we lose the beauty of our religion and the message that it truly has for us. And then we find that the youth leave religion because they don't see religion for its true purpose, which is essentially to guide and heal us. So, for example, the gender roles in culture and religion. So, in terms of culture, the woman's role is demeaned. Her role is not really uplifted. Whereas when we look at it in terms of religion, the women have a very high status in religion, and we are given a lot of rights that, in terms of culture, sometimes we're not given the same rights. Um, so when we live life giving more importance to our cultural values, we make it harder for ourselves when Allah has given us a beautiful religion that has solutions to all of our problems. And then in the same way, when because we are also talking about how this creates a stigma surrounding mental health. In the same way, when someone is suffering through a mental health disease, our religion asks us to support them in practical ways, whereas culturally they may be looked down upon or even shunned. Therefore, like perpetuating that stigma around it that can lead to the person then suffering even more and feeling more lonely rather than supported through community, for example. Marhum Sayyid Asad Jafri, he used to always mention in his majlis that he feels for those that come to mosque with smiling faces but are going through a whirlwind of problems behind the scenes. And then when those same people come to the mosque and they finally muster up that courage, they're actually questioned or judged for sort of showing up rather than being greeted and welcomed. And in those few minutes where we could have been a source of comfort to that person struggling, we're now a cause for them like drowning even more. And so for these reasons, we've chosen to speak about this topic in order to collaborate with the community and to reduce the stigma surrounding mental health.
Amazing. I think yes, it's very important to uh, recognize that this is the issue, and recognize there is a difference between culture and religion. And I think instead of shunning people, we need to be more accepting of what is going on, especially, right?
Yeah.
Sister Zara, you yourself are studying journalism, and I did journalism as well, and I know how the media impacts a lot of people, especially when it comes to such things. But we've often talked about social media in a negative light. When we talk about social media in a positive light, how do you think it helps the youth, or it becomes a community for the youth to go back to, or to recognize that what is happening is culture and not religion?
So I would first of all say that social media has been so important for us because we started Baraza Banter on a social media platform. Like we use YouTube, we use our Instagram to promote our episodes and to speak about these topics. So I would say social media is undoubtedly important for us. Um, in terms of culture, I feel like social media does give you some like increased awareness and increased exposure, I would say, to other people's culture, and that leads to you being more aware of your own culture and more um, how would you say, yeah, more aware of your own culture, um, and I feel like that makes you reflect in a way of what your culture exactly is, how it is different to other people's culture, and also how it is different to what you perceive of your religion versus culture. So I think it's very important because you get that increased exposure, you meet new people, you like we're always scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, and that increased exposure allows us to think, I think, more critically and more deeply about what exactly our culture is and what our values are, what our norms are, and it allows us to compare, I feel like.
Okay, I completely agree. We have a whole lot of information on social media, especially about a variety of things, and it does help the youth quite a lot in helping find themselves as well. Um, Tell me, Sister Zoha, when you did think of this specific topic, when we mean culture, yeah, is it the same around the world? Because you guys have been to the UK, you've studied there, um, and um, and you have stayed in the Middle East for a long number of years. So how different is it when you are here, and how different is it when you're there?
Well, that's a difficult question to ask, as in to answer, but I would say community definitely makes it easier to sort of answer that question or to look at an aspect of 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 that question because the same sort of comfort of community that that you find in Dubai, going to mosque, meeting your friends, attending, the weekly programs and the events and stuff. Having that sort of like that continuum when you come to the UK as well, gives you an aspect of comfort. So obviously, we're forever thankful for that. But cultural, I feel like there's more of a cultural diversity, so to say, over here. Although you would expect, like especially in the Middle East, like it's such a multicultural place with so many different nationalities. I feel like in the UK it is even more because in the same mosque where you'd find, let's say, like Khojas attending, you would also find Iraqis and Iranians, attending in the same mosque. And I find that to be so beautiful because, you're all sitting together and you're all sort of under the umbrella of Imam Hussein, like, and you're all listening to the message, and it really brings you together and makes you more aware of different cultures as well, so to say.
Amazing.
Um,
Because you guys did mention the fact that it's very difficult for women as well, and they're demeaned, and often we blur the lines, yeah, between culture and religion when it comes to women a lot, right? Because we know in Islam women are empowered already, and in the current world that we live in, and for decades we have been fighting for women to be empowered, whereas Islam has already given us that from before. Can you go deeper into how it's affecting us, especially as young hijabi women out in the world today?
Zoha, do you want to take that?
Sure. So just to get the question right one more time, how is it that you said the role of a woman is affected by culture?
Yes. How
Yeah.
how does culture impact the role of women, especially young women, and because the generation is also changing, we are coming up, we're in a different generation completely. So how do you think that changes?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question, especially because as in going back to the title, because it speaks about culture and religion as well. So if we look at it from two different aspects, the influence of culture on, let's say, because we're addressing gender roles over here and how culture affects, the life of a female, and how you said that, well, that's changing with time as well. So culturally, as you see, there's been many changes. Like, as an example, the style of dressing, the ways, the role of a female in a household, as a wife, as a mother, that's changing as well. That's becoming more sort of liberal. It's becoming more open-minded in a certain way. But if you compare it to, let's say, the Islamic teachings, as much as someone would say that Islam is a religion, or even if you compare it according to religion, so one would say that religion sort of looks at a woman's role as a very limiting role. Says that a woman is only supposed to, she has a very limited amount of things that she can do. She can never be an entrepreneur. She can never really be the person that goes out in society and does things, and but if you look at Islam, interestingly, the Holy Prophet was one of the biggest, like, he was one of the biggest advocates for women at his time. And he is actually the person, so at his time, he's one of the first people that introduced voting rights for women. And so women and many other rights that he encouraged the women take up, and sort of which also helped them with their confidence as well. So if we look at it in that way, I feel like culture obviously does have its pros and cons, but when it stands against Islamic values, that's when it starts getting dangerous a little bit. As in, that's when we need to weigh what is more important, or what is more of a priority. But yeah, I guess it all has its pros and cons.
Absolutely. When you guys talk about blurring lines, yeah, Sister Faliha, tell me, when we're talking about the blurred lines between religion and culture, could you expand on some of the examples that maybe you have experienced or you have seen or something else?
So in terms of, so I did mention we just talked about the gender roles and how the lines get blurred between culture and religion in terms of that. And then another example could be, for example, in like our weddings, right? We have a lot of like cultural traditions that we uphold during weddings, and some obviously like a lot of times culture is beautiful, right? We get a lot of our identity from our culture in terms of our food and the events that we have. So there's a lot of positive when it comes to culture. But what our point here is that when the lines, like you're saying, do become blurred between culture and religion, that's when it becomes a little bit dangerous. And then that's when we see youth not understanding the true purpose behind why we do certain things. So, for example, in weddings, we're supposed to, like, religiously, we're supposed to invite the imam first. He should be our first guest at our weddings. And in terms, when we think about that, then we have to think about, okay, if our imam is actually going to be present at the wedding, then we need to make sure that we do things in an Islamic way rather than a cultural way, and think about, not think about like, okay, what will people say in terms of the way we do things. Right? Do you know any other example that you can think of?
That's very true. I was thinking about maybe not maybe not like specifically for our culture, but I think cultures all around the world have gossiping very like ingrained within our social norms and the things that we talk about when we gather, and obviously that entirely clashes with our religious practices. So that's another example of the blurred lines.
Absolutely. I think the examples that you have given, and we have a million examples of how it has blurred lines. Yeah. We often steer towards culture rather than religion. How do you think, like your topic has suggested, how do you think it's detrimental to mental health, especially among the youth?
So I think that.
Go for it,
Go
Filiha.
ahead. You're gonna
Okay,
say something.
so looking at the sort of like the definition of culture. Firstly, like, culture it's beautiful. Like how you mentioned the hadith of Imam Ali as well, that says, within you is an entire universe. So culture makes up, like, it's part of our identity. It's part of who we are as well to a certain extent. And we love parts of culture. I mean, like, who doesn't like a nice biryani and kuchumber on kushali, or like, you know, like, we love our mandazis and, you know, our karak chais, and like, oh, culture is
Just go
beautiful.
on with a list of food.
I
Yeah.
know, and a list of delicious combinations as well. But other than that, so culture is entirely beautiful. But so that's why I think that it's not always a sort of culture versus religion situation. Many times culture has a very it's had a positive impact on religion. In fact, the Holy Prophet himself, like, he was quite a cultured, like, you know, someone who is used to respect culture a lot, and that's evidenced through his dressing, so through the things, to the way he used to, you know, the way he used to talk, the things that he used to eat as well. That's evidence to the lives of many prophets and many ai as well. But I feel like when does it become a point of concern is when, okay, so as an example, let's have a look at this ayah of the Quran. So this ayah of the Quran from Surah Ma'idah, ayah, I have it right here, ayah 104. It says, تعالوا إلى ما أنزل الله. So basically, when the Holy Prophet told them that come towards the message, or was preaching towards people and told them to come towards the message that Allah has sent down, قالوا حسبنا ما وجدنا. We basically, whatever we found with our fathers and grandfathers, that's enough. أولو كان آباؤهم لا يعلمون شيئا ولا يهتدون. So basically, the message over here in this ayah is that the Holy Prophets told them, and all of the prophets, whenever they would mainly go and preach to a tribe, the first thing that the tribe would say is what? That حسبنا ما وجدنا به آباءنا, like, whatever we found with our fathers and grandfathers, that is enough with us. So the first excuse, or the first reason that people gave to sort of oppose, or not really accept the message of Allah that was brought down, was what? That we are, whatever we found with our fathers and grandfathers, that's enough for us and that's sufficient, right? Which sort of basically addresses one of the root problems that causes an opposition towards Islamic teachings, which is what? Lack of growth due to cultural attachments. And when I say that, I don't mean all cultural attachments, because, you know, as I said, culture is beautiful. But when does it become dangerous? When culture stands in front of Islam, right?
Mm.
And I feel like this leads towards, if we discuss solutions of how to overcome this, Islam itself gives a beautiful solution when it says that, in the ayah that says فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَى, which means remind yourself, for reminders are beneficial. So we need to remind ourselves of what is religion and what is culture. When you know the definition of what is religion and what is culture, then that blur won't be there. Then that mixing will not be there, because you'll know the difference between both. Then, when you know the difference, is when you'll be able to explain it to others as well. So first, it's important for us ourselves to know the difference. Okay, when it comes to a particular topic, if I'm stuck in a particular place where I'm like, is this culture that's telling me to do this, or is this religion? I need to first know, okay, what does religion say about this, and what does culture say about this? And then go forward from there. And I feel like that's will sort of not only prevent or you know, stop us from getting confused about many things, but will prevent that confusion from spreading to others as well.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I also wanted to add on this with a couple of other, I would say, collaborative solutions that may help improve our perception of mental health, as we've discussed. So, firstly, I think it's important to make it clear that the cultural stigma that exists around mental health does not reflect the way Allah sees us. So, I mean, on an individual level, and this can specifically be for our youth, who sometimes may feel not feel motivated to meet people or come to the center when they're going through such challenges. I would say, don't let this make you lose hope, because Allah is aware of everything you're facing. And I believe that as long as you continue with your faith in Him, He will guide you through it. And Allah says Himself in the Holy Quran that He will not burden a soul with more than it can bear, and that we will be tested in order to strengthen our faith. So another solution we can think about would be simply raising awareness, and which is why we are so grateful to be given this platform. Because our aim at the Baraza Banter podcast has always been to connect with the youth and to create that safe space for the youth to discuss their topics that pertain towards them. So we believe it's important to listen to the youth's experiences and hear their perspectives. And this can obviously lead to creating beautiful support systems within our community. So we can rely on each other for assistance. We can remind each other of the love of Allah, and we can guide each other whenever it's needed. And lastly, I would like to mention the importance of language when dealing with mental health. It can sometimes increase the struggles of people facing things like anxiety, depression, eating disorders, or more. So the language we use when stigmatizing these challenges can perpetuate the issue even more. And sometimes we're guilty of using incorrect language or even making jokes about mental health challenges. But the Holy Prophet famously said that affliction caused by the tongue is worse than that caused by the strike of the blade of a sword. So we can all collectively try to be more aware of the language that we use when interacting with anyone, because we never know what they're experiencing and what they're going through. So we can do this by being inclusive, by being empathetic, by addressing the root cause of our stigma, which in some cases is our cultural norms. And all our imams and prophets always emphasize the importance of teaching akhlaq, morality, of ethics. And this is exactly what we've been taught by our parents and by our madrasa for so many years. But I think it's all about just putting what we know about our moral principles from our religion into practice, rather than conflating it too much with our culture.
Very, very well put. Thank you so much for that, Sister Zoha and Sister Zara. Very well done. We are going to go in to the Kahoot for today. But before we go into many more questions that I have for you during the Q&A session, and of course, inshallah, the audience will get a chance to ask you as well. So please do stay with us. The Kahoot will be on for 5 minutes, and inshallah, after that, we'll have the Q&A session to keep
Sister
this
Shazia,
going.
quick question. Are we allowed to join
Yes.
the Kahoot as well?
Are you allowed to join? Well, no, not for
careful what you
today. Yeah, I have to be careful. No, because some of the questions are related to today's topic. So I don't think you'll be allowed to join for today. I'm sorry.
I think it's cheating.
Nice try, Zoha.
Yeah, nice try though. But inshallah, tomorrow you guys can continue doing the Kahoot. Yeah?
Inshallah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's have, we can have the leaderboard first, Sean. Before. And yes, today's leaderboard has changed a bit. In first place, again, we have Sister Zara Juma with 65,917 points. In second place, we have Sister Sayyida Masuma with 65,174 points. And in third place, we have Sister Rosemeen Wazir with 65,096 points. So a lot has changed, even fourth, fifth, sixth as well. So please do keep going. It's fastest fingers first. And we can go ahead with Kahoot for day 15. So today's game pin is 8392018. Again, 8392018. There's a QR code as well. You can scan that. Please do log in with your full name, so the names that you have been using for the past 14 days, because that is how your points will be added up. Today's Kahoot is a bit of a mix of what I spoke about as well as the speakers, and it's everything that you guys are supposed to know from the beginning as well. So, inshallah, you'll all know the answers for today. They're not previous questions, but they are questions that you need to be alert on. So, inshallah, you'll all get them today. We'll give it a few seconds for everyone to log in. Again, the game pin is A392018. Okay, I think we can begin with today's Kahoot. Okay, give it. Yeah? Okay, let's begin. Day 15. Are we ready? Question number 1. What movie was quoted at the beginning of the session? Is it A, The Blind Side? Is it B, Coach Carter? Is it C, Harry Potter? Or is it D, Mission Impossible? I think everyone knows this answer already. It was part of what I said at the beginning of the session, a very beautiful excerpt. 5 more seconds to go. And yes, the answer is B, Coach Carter. Question number 2. What is the name of today's group? Is it A, Baraza Girls? Is it B, Baraza Sisters? Is it C, Baraza Banter? Or is it D, Baraza Banter? Which is it? 10 more seconds. And yes, the answer is C, Baraza Banter. I think this name now, I don't think anyone is ever going to forget. Question number 3. What was the book recommended on day 1? Is it Ikigai, The Secrets of Divine Love, Welcome Home, or Braving the Wilderness? This is based on all the books that I have been recommending towards the end of the session, and it also has been sent on the group after the session. So this is the book for day 1. And yes, I see a lot thought it's Ikigai, but it's Welcome Home by Najwa Zebian. Question number 4. What is today's topic? Is it youth and mental well-being? Is it perceptions of mental health? Is it perceptions of mental health, culture versus religion? Or is it perceptions of well-being? Quite tricky there. But we've got all our answers in. And yes, it's perceptions of mental health, culture versus religion. Question number 5. What is the right email to reach us on? Is it bewell@dubai.com? Is it bewell@ksimcdubai.com? Is it bewell@ksimc.com? Is it bewell@ksimcdubai.ae? This is where you can reach us out to if you know the correct answer. And yes, the answer is B. bewell@ksimcdubai.com. And the last question, which is based on our activity calendar. What did you have to do for today's activity? Stretch your quads, read a well-being book, buy yourself something nice, or sell your car. If you have one, that is. Five more seconds. And yes, the answer is C. Buy yourself something nice. Now that you all know what to do for today, please do it. In third place, we have Muni Taslim. In second place, we have Sister Zara Juma. And in first place, we have Sister Rosmin Wazir. Well, very well done to everyone, as well as the runner-ups. And I think we can go ahead with the Q&A session for today. And if you guys have any questions, please do put in the questions in the comment section, and we will try and answer all of them, inshallah. So, thank you for being back, girls. Tell me, did you know the answers to all the questions?
Of course.
Yes, we did, of course.
Okay, inshallah, tomorrow onwards, we need to be seeing you on the leaderboard, right?
Inshallah.
Okay. So, once again, because our topic is culture versus religion and perceptions of mental health. We know that now the tide is changing, and we know that a lot of people are more aware on different mental health issues right now, yeah? How do you think this is different from what Islam taught us years ago? Do you think the having well-being, or having a good state of mind, or addressing mental health issues, do you think it was already there at the time?
I think it was there. Like a lot of practices that we are practicing now that are trending now, like for example, gratitude, having gratitude journals, for example. Those were things that Islam had asked us to do, to be thankful for, and to say Alhamdulillah for everything in every situation, since like ages ago, right? Now it's becoming a trend to sort of every day think about, okay, what are like 5 things I'm grateful for, and put it down in pen, right? But these are things that we've already been taught by our religion ages ago.
Yeah, and I remember even in my madrasa classes, our teachers would tell us that in every step of our day we should be grateful for what Allah has given us, and that's always a reminder that has been there for ages. But we have to like agree that it's a very powerful tool for mental health and for well-being, and it has existed for quite a long time.
There's many
Amazing.
examples
Sister
as
Zoe?
well through history. Sorry, go on.
No, that is, I wanted to direct it to you. Go on.
So there's plenty of examples in history as well. As an example, the Quran also says that أَفَلَا تَشْكُرُونَ. Many of the ayat also end as do you not thank God? So the concept of thankfulness is promoted as well. Whereas in the tafsir of those ayat that mention thankfulness, if you have a look, the tafsir says that obviously when you thank someone, why have you thanked them? Because you have come to the realization that they have done something for you, right? And that realization itself is a feeling of fulfillment. So when you have that realization that this person's been good to me, you feel good on the inside as well. So it's an entire cycle. Or as an example, the concept of forgiveness, like Allah, taking the example of Bani Israel as an example. قولوا حطة نغفر لكم خطاياكم. The ayah says that just say sorry and we will forgive your, all of the things that you've done, despite the fact that, you made a calf of gold and started worshipping a calf, despite the fact that, like the numerous things that are listed, that the things that Bani Israel did, time and time again, Allah was waiting. He was literally like, you just come to me. You just look at me and say, I am sorry and I am there to forgive you. So the concept of forgiveness is also promoted as well. Other than the ayat of the Quran, let's say as an example, if we look at Islamic medicine, there's many, let's say, herbs that are there for, let's say, there are herbal teas as an example for relaxation, for like to give you more of a soothing feeling. So Islam has time and time again through medications, through ayat, through practices, through reflections. As Imam Ali also says that towards the end of the day, you should reflect at what you did in that day, which in itself is a beautiful technique to maintain your well-being. So
just adding on to that, even like, for example, the idea of trusting something bigger than us, right? Like people say, oh, I'm trusting and leave it to the universe, right? Leave it to the universe. So for us, we already had that from ages ago. We just leave it to Allah, and he will sort out everything for us, right? So we have that sense of faith and trust in Allah, that if we really take it for what it gives us and provides us with, and use it in the way that it's supposed to be, then we can actually be successful.
Yeah, and a lot of emphasis is being put nowadays on the impact of your physical health to your mental health. So when it comes to well-being, a lot of people say that you should eat healthy, or you should go for a walk, or you should like make sure your sleeping pattern is proper. But these are all things that Islam has encouraged us to do anyway for a long time.
Amazing. Yeah, I completely agree. The fact that we have a lot of things that we have actually been taught by Islam, and now, like the universe, pray to the universe and it'll give it back to you. You know, things like that. We already had God to do that, right? And a lot of times, it has become a Western concept that they have brought it. They have the ones who have discovered it, but it's actually been there for ages, even to do with Islamic medicine, as Sister Zohar rightly said. And it's very important, absolutely. I think my other question would be, why is it when we come to mental well-being and the youth, yeah, like you guys had mentioned that it's very important for society to know, and this is why you started your podcast, to know the opinions of the youth, or their perception on how they perceive things, yeah. And what do you think are some of the main concerns when it comes to mental health right now among the youth community?
I think that one of the main concerns is that maybe the youth feels like, they're not being heard. Their voices are not being heard. They're saying that, okay, these are the things that we are struggling with, for example, and are putting that their concerns forward, but those concerns are not taken into consideration, or maybe not worked with in the way that they would like for it to be taken into consideration. So for example, like when someone tells us, like I'm a teacher, right? So when a student tells me that they have a certain concern, I'm not going to just shun them away. I'm going to listen to them. Okay, tell me how you're feeling, and how can I help you? How would you like me to help you? Right? So taking their feelings into consideration, and seeing how we can be of help to them depending on what they're going through.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of our speakers do this very well. Like Marhum Sayyid Jafri used to do this amazing. Like he would have youth camps all the time. And even Sheikh Jawad Shamali does this as well. Everywhere he goes in the world, he always has sessions with the youth. He's always directing his conversations on the minbar to the youth. And that helps us a lot to feel like we are involved, and we are heard.
That sense of belonging to the community, right? That has to be like, we have to feel like we belong in a community to then get that support from the community as well, right?
Absolutely. Sister Zoha?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Sheikh Jawad Shmali is my absolute favorite. But yeah, that's one of the other things I would say is also when I was discussing this with a group of my friends, I think we need, so obviously repeatability is, as in repeating different concepts that we different principles that we have in our religion is very important, and as we said, reminders are always good. But I think with time, we need to also explore new concepts, different concepts that were not explored. As an example, the introduction of science within Islam, the element of time. Is it created? Is it a man-made aspect, or is it something that truly exists? What is the belief of what about the lives of the prophets? Like what did they? How did they come to a position where they were chosen for prophethood? Were they chosen from before, or were they really where they sent us prophets. These are just like examples, but we need to discover, like, we need to discuss ideas that have never been discussed before. And I think
And
that's
also,
what
I
leads
think
to the
sorry, Zoha, I'm cutting you off. But just
that's
when you
what
added, when this is a regular for our podcast. But I just remember that also being open to change, firstly, is something that's so important too, right? Like I said, being feeling like we're heard, being open to change, and also providing a space then that where we can collaborate with the elders in our community and come up with solutions that will work for everyone.
And just to sort of add on to that,
Yeah.
lastly, is that I think one of the, let's say, if we're talking about a specific topic that we need to introduce and speak more about, I think very, very, very importantly is ma'rifat al-nafs, the knowledge of the self. It's as if we were sent to this world without any manual many a times, as in, like, that's one of the most common phrase that I hear, that, any IKEA furniture that you buy, it always comes with a manual, right? It always, any machine that you buy, any whatever, it always comes with do this, do not do this. So it feels like we've been sent to this world without any manual. But then one would argue and say, but no, the Quran is a manual that, is a book of guidance there for us. But do you actually, when you are in any problem in your life, do you actually open up the Quran and go to this verse and be like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to be resolving my fights? No, we don't, right? So as the Quran is a general book of guidance for us, we need lessons on how to know ourselves. When should you get angry? Is it rightful for you to get angry now, or should you save your anger because it's a valuable asset to you? How are you supposed to be interacting with a particular person? What is your nature? What is not your nature? So I feel like knowledge of the self is imperative. As Imam Ali also says, that whoever knows himself, man arafa nafsa faqad arafa rabba. So like it's really important, and I can't stress enough on how much this is a need in every society, in every community, and in every age group.
Yeah, and that goes back to mental health and mental well-being, because if you know yourself, then you're able to solve your own, let's say, the challenges that you face, or you're able to go through life in a certain way, that the way that the religion tells you to. So yeah, that's very valuable.
And when we truly feel that connection with Allah as well, that helps our mental health too on a daily basis.
No, I absolutely agree. First of all, Sister Zoha, I love all your ideas. We need to put them into action, because I love science too, and I love history as well. So I think there is a lot we can tap into when it comes to learning about how what happened during the times of the prophets, more than what our books teach us is amazing. But the point of history is because you're always learning something new. That's why every time we go, I believe that every time I go for a Muharram Majlis, I'm learning something new about what I didn't know about what happened during Karbala, or if there was an extra Sahaba who was there, or it's just there's always something new to take away. And when it comes to science, I think also is very important. Like you said, knowing yourself gets you closer to God as well, right? And it is very important to know yourself, especially during the times that we live in today. Yeah, my next question would be, how detrimental is it, especially when you go on social media? And because you guys have been outside as well, outside of the Middle East. In the Middle East, of course, it doesn't happen as often, but because when you go to the West, it's very difficult for the youth to get accustomed to how things are there, especially when it comes to Islamophobia. So now I don't want to go into the political details of it, but I want to ask you, how does it affect the mental health of the youth, especially now?
So I think that first of all, when you have a strong base in your religion, and then you move away from your home and you go to a new place, especially in the West, you are able to tackle those problems in a better way, right? So because we've been so blessed to be part of our madrasa and to have lovely teachers that have really equipped us with the information and the knowledge that we need, the practical skills that we do need to then take with us outside when we go. For me personally, that's something that really helped me. Like when I moved to Canada, it was because mosque was like my second home. It sort of transcribed there as well, right? Then I felt the need, okay, I need to find my space there too. So mosque then became my second home there as well, and I started to connect with people over there just in the same way that I connected here. So, and that really helped me when I felt homesick. For example, we have that, like, that space for us where we have familiar people around us, familiar, then that comes back to our culture, right? Familiar food, familiar language around us. It really helps to relieve that sort of part of that homesickness, right? So again, having that strong root in our religion really helps us to tackle any because then you know what your values are, and whatever the world tells you or shoves on you when you travel outside, you realize, okay, I know what my values are, and you're strong enough to keep those values. Then I think there's nothing that can hinder that then.
Yeah. And I wanted to say also, when I went on exchange to the UK, I was quite anxious about this whole Islamophobia thing because I wasn't aware of like how diverse my campus was. So I would say that having spaces, Muslim spaces, or even our own community spaces, really helps you to express yourself, to be yourself, to not feel like you are being like pressured or judged to act a certain way when it comes to Islamophobia. So I think we're really lucky to have community spaces all around the world. And even if it isn't our own community, there are a lot of Islamic societies around the world and in a lot of universities that youth can access, and that's really important.
I 100% agree. Flia, just a quick comments on what you said as well. A quick shout out to all of our madrasa teachers. We thank you and we love you if you're watching. But yeah, so I completely second what you said, and in fact, I think it's a two-way relation. So as Sister Shazia, as you mentioned about the Islamophobia aspect, I think it's something that is obviously it's unfortunate, it's sad, but then it's also something that brings many people together. Like as an example, as Zahra mentioned, over here in the West, there's many. So each university has an Islamic society. And that sort of brings them together as well. You know, the fact that you have me, I have you. And that aspect is really beautiful as well. But I feel like, you know, as Faliha mentioned, it's really when you go out of your shell and your comfort zone, and when you're left to make decisions on your own to decide, okay, fine, it's namaz time. Over here, no one really gives the azan. You don't really hear the azan. So I completely have the choice to pray 5 minutes before Qala because my parents are not here either to tell me, you know, pray on time, make sure you do. So it's on me. And the beauty and you feel so beautiful and so like the piece is different when you yourself make the decision that no, I want to make the decision to wear my hijab properly. I want to make sure that I pray on time, not because someone's telling me to, not because someone's come up to me and gone like, it's namaz time, you still haven't prayed. No, the beauty is different when you yourself are like, no, I now know my priorities. And you're doing it of choice. I think there was, I can't exactly remember the name of the prophet, but there was a prophet who, since a young age, so he went and lived amongst people, like amongst a society that wasn't necessarily a God-loving society. And many people told him, they're like, why are you going? And you'd rather live amongst people who you think will encourage you and like are good, positive people. Why are you going and living amongst these people? He's like, you watch. Now he went and he lived amongst these people, and obviously, like as the days went on, that you could see the rebellion in their actions. You could see how they did not have a single, like no love for God, no respect for, for a higher power, for a higher entity. But as the days passed, instead of him catching their colors, his akhlaq and his approach was such that they started, they were attracted towards him. Instead of him standing in front of his house and, holding a Quran up and being like, join this religion now. Instead of doing that, he attracted them through his actions, exactly like the Holy Prophet did as well. And I find that to be the most beautiful. It doesn't need, like in many of the ad'iyah as well, when we address Allah, when we talk to him, You know, you don't want to say that, oh Allah, I love you. You want to have that conversation with him. You want to look up to him as well. But the beauty is when he looks at the entire world and you are the first person that he can see. You know, he looks at you, he goes like, you know, he the man. She's my person. Um,
Yeah, so
that's
just adding to your point, Zoha, like that when you leave home, you sort of start to build that your own individual connection with Allah as well. And through the struggles and through like all the new experiences that you go through, you realize that actually Allah is there for you even more than ever. Like he has your back, like you just said, you know, he has your back through it all. And like Sayyid Asad Jafi used to always say, I'm always quoting Sayyid Asad Jafi marhum. I think we should recite a Surah Fatiha for him as well. But he used to say that when your spirituality is sort of like you're using Google Maps and you're rerouting until you find your way to Allah. And I think that's sort of the best analogy I can put in terms of my experience going outside, right? We sometimes we do, and we're not perfect, right? So we do get off that path and come back again. But as long as we're sort of finding our way back to Allah, that's what is the most important, I think. And because we have that strong base, we are able to come back to Allah.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think when you go out there or you're not surrounded by everyone telling you how you should follow your religion, it's when your test actually starts, right? It's when your principles, your teachings, all that comes in handy, and then you find yourself as well in your beliefs, in your principles, in your boundaries. And I think that is actual true calling to God.
Yeah.
I think
And I
find
do
that
truly believe in that.
just to sort of add on to your point, Razia.
Yeah.
I know my mom's watching, and I know that her favorite line to always say and to always remind me is this hadith of Imam Ali, where he says that so she says it in Urdu. She says, "Mere badalte hue iradon se maine khuda ko pehtana," which means that through the changes in your irada, in the plans, in whatever you have planned but doesn't really, happen according to your plan, you find God through that. So just sit back, relax, and wait for God's plan to unfold. And that's how I've been taking life for this past few months.
I wanted to add on to your points as well. Sometimes I find it easier to go that extra mile and go that extra step to make sure that I'm presenting myself as a Muslim and as a hijabi as perfectly as possible, especially in the West, because you want to present yourself as a positive representation of Islam to the people that are not exposed to it. So I find it in some ways it's a bit easier to go that extra mile.
I think it's very beautiful that we can represent our religion through the headscarf that we do wear. I think it's a responsibility, but it also gives you, I would say myself, because as a hijabi woman, it gives you a sense of pride, a sense of the fact that you know what you're doing is right, no matter what anyone else says around you.
Yeah, and it's also a way to connect with other people. Like I found myself looking for hijabis everywhere. Like I'm like, where can I find my people? yeah,
For sure. Definitely. We relate to that more, right? Anywhere you go in the world, this is what you want. You want people who are like you, but even when you have a diverse society, it's great. But you're always looking for that one extra hijabi girl who needs, to be part of your group, your tribe, right? And I think this was a very beautiful session. Someone in the comments has asked, is the Baraza Banter podcast accessible to all?
Yes, for
It
sure.
is? Okay.
Yes, we always upload
So
it. We upload our podcast on YouTube. So
yeah, you can find us on
Okay.
YouTube and on Instagram as well.
Great. We're going to send out the links for anyone who does want to listen to the podcast, and I do recommend it. Please do on our group. We will send out the links, inshallah, after this session. Once again, thank you so much, girls. We could do this again and again, inshallah. When we have a youth podcast in the future, we will
yeah,
have you guys back on as well.
We look
So,
forward to that.
yes, thank you. Thank you so much for making the time. And yes, thank you so much. Inshallah, we'll
Thank
have you
you for
next
Thank
time.
you
having
for
us.
having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. As always, I'm going to be recommending a book at the end. And today we have an excerpt that is it goes well with what has been spoken about today. Today we have a book by Shifalid Sabari, which is called A Radical Awakening. And this is the excerpt. Traditions, while valuable in preserving cultural legacies, also have the potential to obstruct our conscious awareness. The more traditions are thrust upon our young shoulders, the more our identities become entwined with them, to the point where we are unable to recognize ourselves outside of them. We can only hope to break free from the shackles of robotic conformity if we understand how traditions from the past fuel our lives. Many traditions, while beautiful and definitely worthy of keeping if chosen freely, are filled with subscripts of subjugation, servility, and patriarchy. As a result, the emancipated person recognizes the fallacy of being enslaved by tradition. If necessary, they are ready to lose all of them. And with that, I'm going to end today's session. Thank you so much for being with us today. Tomorrow, we will be back with another riveting session for day 16. And once again, thank you all so much for being with me here today. Tomorrow, yes, my co-host Uncle Shamil will be there. So do look forward to that as well. Inshallah, good night, God bless, and don't forget your watermelons for the day. Thank you.